Welcome back to Dead and Roasted. What'll it be tonight? First off, thanks to everyone who shared their ideas for our potential coffee roast. Some exciting things are brewing behind the scenes, and if they pan out, I'll have something special for you. For now, let's get into something a little darker. Tonight's episode is filled with unsettling workplace tales, but the first one, while not exactly about work itself, only happened because of a parent's job schedule. It still chills me when I think about it. This took place in the early 90s, around 93, when I was about 11. My mom was a night shift nurse working 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., 4 nights a week. She was a single parent, always doing her best. By that age, I could handle staying home on my own. She'd leave dinner waiting, call at 9 to check I'd eaten, then again at 10 to make sure I was in bed. If I didn't pick up, I'd be in big trouble. It was our little system, and most of the time, it worked. That night, though, my friend Mitchell was over because his folks were out of town and his older sister didn't want to look after him. Mom liked Mitch. She treated him like family and figured 2 kids together were safer than one alone. Before leaving, she gave the usual instructions: dinner in the kitchen, no leaving the house, lights out by 10, and lock the door behind her. We followed most of it. Except 2 things. We kept the lights on past 10, and worse, I forgot to lock the front door. She even reminded me twice. And both times I said, "Yeah, okay," without really meaning it. We were glued to Super Mario World, telling ourselves we'd do it after the next life. Then, of course, we forgot. By 11:30, we were still, sitting cross-legged in front of that little 13-inch TV, volume turned low so we'd hear if Mom came home early. Usually, she wasn't back until morning, around 8. But sometimes, when the hospital was quiet, she'd get off early. That night, while we were stuck on some weird hidden level, we heard the front door creak open. No keys. Jingling. No knock. Just a slow, deliberate creak. The sound made my stomach drop. Mom almost always called before coming home unexpectedly. But not this time. No call, nothing. "Turn it off. Turn it off," Mitchell hissed, already sliding under his blanket pallet on the floor. I hit the power button, the screen going black, then flicked off the lamp. The room was dark except for the faint slice of hallway light under my bedroom door. Footsteps followed, but they didn't sound like hers. Mitchell was already under the covers, holding his breath. I dove into bed, pulled the blanket over my head, facing the wall as my heart hammered in my chest. Every inch of me screamed it wasn't her. The steps moved from the living room into the kitchen, then back again, then slowly down the hallway. They stopped outside my room. And then the doorknob began to turn. I squeezed my eyes shut, then barely cracked them open, just enough to see through my lashes. The door swung open, slowly, and a man stepped into my room. Not my mom, not anyone I had ever seen before. He was a black man, maybe in his 30s, with a thick beard and a hooded sweatshirt pulled up over his head. Even in the dim slice of hallway light, I noticed something wrong. His left eye twitched, in strange spasms, making the whole side of his face jerk in unsettling little movements. He stood there, framed in the doorway, just staring. Seconds stretched like hours. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might give me away. Every instinct screamed at me to scream, to jump up, to run. But something deeper, some primal survival instinct told me, stay still, pretend to sleep. Maybe he'd just leave. Maybe he was after the TV or the stereo and would grab it and go. But he didn't. He stepped inside, his footsteps soft against the carpet. He moved carefully, deliberately, stepping over Mitchell's makeshift bed on the floor. Then he stopped and just stood there, looking down at my friend. I held my breath as the stranger slowly knelt beside him. His hands reached out, fingers clutching the edges of the blanket my mom had given us earlier. He lifted it slightly, like someone testing the weight of a sack, like he was figuring out how to lift Mitchell up without waking him. From where I lay, I could see Mitchell's face. His eyes were screwed shut, his breathing fast and shallow. He was awake. He knew. The man held that position for a moment, 5 seconds, maybe 10. Then, for reasons I will never understand, he gently lowered the blanket back down. He stood, scanned the room one last time, and his gaze locked on mine. I forced my lungs to rise and fall slowly like I was in deep sleep, even though my heart was trying to claw out of my chest. Finally, he turned, pulled the door almost shut, but not all the way, and left. We lay there, frozen in the dark, straining to hear. For the next 20 minutes, he moved through the house, drawers opening in the kitchen, footsteps in my mom's bedroom, the bathroom door clicking shut and opening again. Every tiny sound made my stomach twist. I wanted to throw up. Then, the front door opened, closed. Silence. We waited. 5 minutes, 10, still nothing. Finally, I whispered, "Mitchell, is he gone?" I think so," he whispered back, his voice shaking. In the dim light, I saw his cheeks wet with tears. "Was he gonna take me?" he asked. "Was he going to pick me up and take me?" "I don't know," I said, my own voice barely working. We sat there on the floor, two terrified kids with no idea what to do. At last, I crawled to the living room, locked the front door, the thing I should have done hours ago, and grabbed the phone. I called my mom at the hospital. When she answered, the words tumbled out. "Mom, someone was in the house." The next hours were a blur. Mom dropped everything and raced home, telling us to call 911 and stay on the line until the police arrived. 2 officers were at the door within 10 minutes, flashlights cutting through the hall as they searched every room and the yard. Mom arrived just as they were finishing. I had to sit there and tell the police everything. Every detail I could remember, the thick beard, the hood pulled over his head, the twitching eye that wouldn't stay still, his height, his build. Every inch of him burned into my memory. They scribbled it all down, asked about missing items. Mom checked her jewelry box, emptied. Some cash from her dresser was gone too, but nothing else. Mitchell's parents arrived around 2 a.m., his mom in tears when she heard what had happened. Mitchell barely spoke. He just wanted to leave, and after that night, he was never allowed back at our house. The next day, Mom stayed home from work. That afternoon, the phone rang. It was the police. They'd caught a man matching my description just 2 miles away, arrested for armed robbery at a gas station. In his pocket, my mom's jewelry. I should have felt relief, and I did, partly, but my mind wouldn't stop chewing on one thing. Why did he come into my room, lift Mitchell's blanket like that, and then just leave him? Now that I'm older, I have my theories. Maybe he planned to take Mitchell, kidnap him, sell him off, whatever nightmare people like him dream, up for fast cash. But maybe in that last second, he realized stealing a child would bring the kind of heat even a desperate thief couldn't handle. Or maybe, for just one moment, his conscience clawed its way through. I'll never know. But the memory still makes my stomach turn. Poor Mitchell. He carries that moment too. We're still friends, but we never talk about it. So, to anyone listening, especially if you're young, never ever forget to lock your door. The Truck on the Empty Road, rewritten. The second story takes us to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Back in 2018, I had just turned 16 and landed my first job at a Sonic along the main boulevard. Not glamorous, but the tips were better than I expected, and my coworkers made the shifts bearable. The place was only a mile from my house, a straight walk down the boulevard, then a right onto my street. My mom, a nurse, needed the car for her shifts, and I didn't mind walking. It was routine, comfortable, safe, or so I thought. This was a Tuesday in September. Senior year had just started. My shift was 2 p.m. to 10 p.m., which meant I usually walked home just as the streets went quiet. The boulevard stayed somewhat busy during the day, but after 10, it was mostly empty. Just the odd car heading to the interstate. That night, we'd been slammed during dinner rush. I smelled like tater tots and cherry limeade, my feet aching from 8 hours of running orders. I clocked out a few minutes past 10, said goodbye to the crew, and started my usual walk. The first half mile was normal, streetlights buzzing, a few cars rolling by. But once I turned onto my street, everything darkened. The old oak trees blocked most of the lamps, and shadows swallowed the pavement. I knew this route like the back of my hand. Every cracked slab of concrete, every house where dogs barked when you passed. Then, I heard a truck coming from behind. Nothing strange about that, until it passed me slowly, then slammed the brakes. Red brake lights washed the street. The truck shifted into reverse. It backed up until it was crawling just behind me, maybe 30 feet away, close. Enough that its headlights bathed me in white, but not close enough to call it a threat. Not yet. And then, it just followed. Not fast. Not rushing me. Just keeping pace. The engine rumbled softly, occasionally revving when I sped up. My mind started to race. Run! Keep walking. Something told me that if I bolted, it might trigger the exact thing I feared. Legally, the driver wasn't doing anything wrong, just sharing the road, right? But my gut screamed otherwise. I slid my hand into my pocket, gripping my phone, and kept walking. All the way home, that truck trailed me. When I turned into my driveway, it slowed to a crawl, nearly stopping, then rolled off down the street. I never saw the driver's face. Those headlights blinded me the whole time. I couldn't even tell you what color the truck was. Just dark. Black or navy, maybe. I stormed inside, heart hammering. Mom was still awake, watching TV. One look at my face, and she knew something was wrong. I told her. Her expression changed instantly, part worry, part anger. "You're taking this tomorrow," she said, pulling a small pink and black taser from her purse. It fit in my palm like a toy. "Mom, I don't think..." "Just take it. Keep it where you can reach it." The next night, I walked the same road. I didn't see the truck again. By the following day, I almost convinced myself I'd overreacted. Maybe the driver was lost, maybe drunk, maybe just weird. But that Tuesday night walk, I still feel those headlights on my back. By the next evening, I'd almost managed to shake off what had happened the night before. Almost. I clocked out a little after 10 and started my usual walk home. This time, I had my mom's taser in my pocket, her voice echoing in my head. "Keep it where you can grab it fast." I felt silly carrying it until I heard it. The same low engine rumble from behind me. I didn't turn around. I just kept walking, eyes forward, heart kicking against my ribs. The light on the pavement ahead of me grew brighter as headlights crept closer. This time, the truck didn't hang back. It rolled up right alongside me. The passenger window came down. I finally looked. An old white man, maybe in his 70s, white hair, weathered skin, a plaid work shirt. When he spoke, his voice carried a faint accent. Eastern, European, maybe. "You need ride?" he said. I shook my head. "No, thank you. I'm fine." "It's not safe, young lady. Should not walk alone." "I'm fine, really. I'm almost home." But he didn't speed off. The truck kept crawling beside me. The old man leaned out further. I insist, please, get in truck. I stopped walking. He stopped too, right there in the middle of the road. Look, he said, I am neighbor, live just houses from you. Yellow house with bird bath. You know it. I did know that house, 3 doors down from mine. I'd seen a truck there before, but never him. It's not safe out here, he repeated. You get in now, or maybe you end up hurt. Tell you what, you don't trust me? Fine, you drive. I let you drive. Just get in. Hesitated. What's your name? Dmitri Vulov. Your mother, Sandra, she knows me. Call her. Go ahead. Call. I pulled my phone out, keeping my eyes on him as I dialed. Mom picked up fast, probably worried already. Hey, Mom, there's a man here, says he's Dmitri Vulov. Claims he lives in the yellow house, says you know him. There was a pause. Then, yes, I know Mr. Vulov. What's he want? Trying to give you a ride? Yeah. Take it. Mom, take the ride. I'll explain when you get home. The old man had already leaned over and opened the passenger door. Against every survival instinct screaming inside me, I got in. The truck smelled of cigarettes and pine. Rosary beads dangled from the mirror, and an old Orthodox icon clung to the dashboard. He put it in drive and crawled forward at barely 10 miles an hour. I apologize for scaring you, he said quietly, but is not safe. You understand? Not safe for girl to walk alone after dark. Why? I asked. He was silent for a moment, eyes on the road. Then, last night, I see you walking, and I see something else. Following you. That's why I drive behind you. Headlights. Keep you safe. My stomach turned. What do you mean, something else? He shook his head. Cannot explain good. Was not person. Not normal. Better you not walk alone. By then, we were at my house. He stopped, looked at me. Tell your mother what I said. Call me if you need ride. But you don't walk alone after dark anymore. I thanked him, still shaken, and went inside. He waited until the door closed before driving off to his place down the street. Mom was sitting in the living room, tense. I told her everything. She nodded, worried. Go take a shower and relax, she said. We'll talk. In a bit. When I came back out in pajamas, she patted the couch. You can take my car from now on, she said. I'll get rides from Cheryl. Mom, what's going on? What did Mr. Vulov tell you? She exhaled slowly. He said he saw something following you home last night. Said it didn't look like a person, not like a man or a woman. Something tall, thin, dark, bigger than a man. But it moved, like a cat. Quick! I laughed nervously. That's insane. Maybe, but he wasn't trying to scare you. He sounded scared himself. And Dmitri isn't the kind of man who scares easily. The guy lived through the Soviet Union. That night, I didn't argue. I just took the keys. 2 days later, Dmitri called again. 2 of his cats had been found in his backyard, half-eaten. Not like a dog would do. Something else. By the weekend, Mom helped me finance a used Honda Civic. She said, it was a graduation gift in advance, but I knew the truth. She was scared, and because of that, so was I. I finished that year at Sonic. Every shift after that, I drove. Sometimes I'd see Dmitri outside his yellow house as I passed. He'd wave. I always waved back. Because without him, I'm not sure I'd be here telling this story. Moving into that house felt like a dream. After years of thin apartment walls, hearing neighbors argue through drywall and smelling their overcooked pasta, we finally had space. Real space. A yard. A garage. A kitchen that didn't feel like a closet. We didn't think twice about the rent being too reasonable. We just signed. I should make one thing clear before I go any further. I'm not the kind of person who blames shadows for creaking floors. I was raised Irish Catholic but left the pews behind in high school. I don't read horoscopes. I've always rolled my eyes at ghost shows. Entertaining, sure, but fake. At least, that's what I believed. Because now, I'm not so sure. The first time it happened, the house had only just started to feel like home. Boxes everywhere. We were eating takeout on the floor because the table wasn't set up yet. I was in the kitchen breaking down cardboard when I heard Derek, my boyfriend, talking, not on the phone, to someone. I walked back into the living room, and he was alone. "Who were you talking to?" I asked. He frowned. "Wait, weren't you just standing here?" "I've been in the kitchen. I swear I heard you walk up behind the couch. I even felt it. Someone standing right there. I was telling you about the cable guy coming tomorrow." We both laughed it off. Old house, new acoustics. Maybe a neighbor's voice carried through the walls. It was easier to tell ourselves that. A few weeks later, it was nearly 2 a.m. I was in my office, the smallest bedroom, formatting an e-book. Derek was asleep down the hall. That's when I heard it, the door handle turning. Not rattling, turning. I spun in, my chair. The handle was fully pressed down, like a hand was gripping it from the other side. But the door didn't open. It stayed like that for 5 long seconds, then slowly lifted back into place. When I opened it, the hallway was empty. Derek was still asleep. From there, it snowballed. Cabinets we'd closed would stand open. The bathroom faucet turned on full blast by itself. Not a drip, not a leak, running. The cats, Mango and Pepsi, began to act wrong. Mango refused to be alone in any room. Pepsi would bolt for no reason, tail puffed like a brush. But the worst was the feeling. It wasn't constant, but when it came, it was unbearable. That creeping pressure of someone standing behind you, breathing, waiting. One night, I finally saw it. I was filling a glass of water in the kitchen. The archway to the dining room was open, and on that wall, the previous tenants had left a large mirror. As I stood there, water overflowing my glass, I saw it. A figure, tall, too tall. 7 feet at least, broad but wrong. Not a shadow, not a person. More like a hole punched through the air, human-shaped but featureless, darker than dark. It didn't walk away. It didn't fade. It was just gone. I didn't sleep that night. And in the morning, when I told Derek, he tried to explain it away. Headlights, shadows, tired eyes. I wanted to believe him. Until he saw it too. A week later, pale and shaken, he came to me. "It was in the hallway," he said, "outside our bedroom. I blinked and it vanished." We tried everything. Carbon monoxide tests, mold checks, researching the house's history. Nothing. Clean records. No deaths, no tragedies. Built in 1974, rented since 2015. But it kept escalating. One night, half asleep, I heard Derek's voice calling me from my office. "Sarah, come here." I started to get up, then froze. Derek was right beside me, fast asleep. A chill wrapped around my spine. I shook him awake. "Did you say something?" He blinked, confused. "No, I've been asleep." And then we both heard it. His voice again. Laughing. Not quite human. Too long. Then it stopped. We left the lights on until dawn. That was the first time I said the word out loud. Demon. From there, it got bold. Daylight bold. Moving shadows where shadows shouldn't be. That towering dark shape flickering just out of view. Derek started working from coffee shops. I didn't have that luxury. My setup was here. Multiple monitors, stable, internet. So I stayed, and I waited for it to stop. It didn't. The worst night wasn't the first. It was 3 weeks ago. Derek was working late, one of those rare overnight shifts that left me alone in the house. I'd just stepped into the shower when I heard the bathroom door open. "Derek?" I called out, hoping maybe. He'd surprised me by coming home early. Silence. Through the frosted glass, I saw it, a dark shape, not moving, just standing there. Water trickled down my back as the air turned cold. "Derek?" I said again. Nothing. It didn't speak. It didn't move. It only watched. I could feel its stare like pins against my skin. The last thing I wanted to do was open that shower door and meet it face to face. And then it spoke. Not in Derek's voice this time. In mine. My voice. Perfectly. Repeating the words I'd said earlier that day to my mom on the phone. "I love you too, Mom. Talk to you later." The thing stepped closer. Tall. Too tall. Shoulders almost brushing the ceiling, body wide and wrong. Its outline pressed against the frosted door. An arm, if you could call it that, lifted, reaching for the handle. I did the only thing I could. I prayed. For the first time in years, I prayed. The Our Father. The Hail Mary. Every piece of childhood faith I could still remember came tumbling out of me like a lifeline. And it stopped. Between one blink and the next, it was gone. I didn't bother drying off. I grabbed my towel, ran to my car, and sat there, shaking, dripping wet, until Derek got home 2 hours later. We talked about leaving, breaking the lease. But the penalty was brutal. 2 months' rent plus our security deposit. We couldn't afford that, not after the cost of moving in. So we stayed. Now we live by rules. Never speak to it. Never respond when it calls our names. Keep the lights on after dark. When the cats freeze and stare at nothing, leave that room immediately. Crosses hang in every bedroom now. Derek doesn't argue. The cats sleep in our bed, and still it comes. Sometimes I wake to find the hallway light flickering. Sometimes I hear our own voices whispering from rooms we're not in. Tonight is one of those nights. It's 4:03 a.m. as I write this, in that same office I told you about. I don't hear it, but I know it's here. It waits. And I don't know what it's waiting for. 4 more months. That's how long our lease has left. 4 more months of living with something that wears our voices, stands in our doorways, and watches us sleep. What a wonderful roommate. I must have made some kind of noise, panic or fear leaking out, because the passenger beside me asked, "Are you okay?" I glanced at him, then back at the road. Gone. Whatever I saw was gone. "Yeah, sorry," I muttered. Thought I saw a deer. But it wasn't a deer. After that, the sightings started to stack up, always at night, always when I drove, never once during the day. Sometimes it would stand at intersections, barely there for a moment before vanishing. Sometimes I caught it between the buildings, its shape warped by the shadows. Once I swear I saw it on top of a parking garage, crouched against the skyline, watching as my car passed below. I quit the night shifts for a while, thinking maybe I was losing it. Booked a therapist, different from the one I saw as a kid. Told him everything, the returning nightmares, the sightings on the road. He put me on anxiety meds, told me it might be trauma, some buried memory clawing its way out. But I knew trauma. This wasn't that. This had no trigger, no reason. I went back to the night runs anyway. Bills don't care about ghosts. For a while, things quieted down. Some nights, I'd convince myself it was all in my head. Other nights, there it was again, standing at the roadside, moving with the car. And then came the night that changed everything. Early 2020, I picked up a woman, let's call her C, from a bar in Low. Around 1 a.m., friendly, chatty, just tipsy enough to talk about podcasts and bad bosses. We cup her. We're halfway to her place in Lakewood when I saw it. It was in the middle of the road, 50 feet ahead, on all fours, waiting. I started to slow down, calculating how to swerve around it without sounding like a lunatic. Then C stopped mid-sentence and screamed, "What the hell is that?" My blood turned to ice. You see it too? What do you mean? It's right there. Is that a bear? That's not a bear. I swerved, hit the gas. In the mirror, I saw it drop to all fours and run after us. Fast, far too fast for anything. Natural. Kay twisted in her seat, pale as the moon. It's following us! Oh my God! How is it moving so fast? I didn't answer. My mind was reeling. If she saw it too, then it was real. We lost it once the city lights swallowed the road behind us. C begged me to wait. Until she was inside before I left. I saw her peeking through the blinds as I drove off. She gave me a 1-star review, said I seemed unstable, that I swerved for no reason and made her feel unsafe. I've seen it a dozen times since then. A silent witness on street corners, a shadow in alleys. Once a passenger, a quiet older woman, saw it too. She didn't scream, just whispered a prayer in a language I didn't know. I've read about tulpas, thought forms made real by obsession. What if I did this? What if my fear, my childhood nightmares, carved a hole and pulled this thing through? Or maybe it's not mine at all. Maybe it's been here all along. I only see it at night, only when I'm behind the wheel. But sometimes, I wonder, what if one night I step out of the car and it's waiting for me at my bedroom door? The sound grew louder as I crept closer, moaning, low and guttural, definitely a man's voice, definitely in pain. For a second, I thought maybe someone had broken in, maybe a homeless man, hurt or trapped, the kind of thing you hope never happens on your shift. But something felt off, the rhythm of it, the way it had been happening for weeks, always stopping just as I arrived. So I didn't announce myself. I killed my flashlight and moved along the wall step by step, letting my eyes adjust to the thin glow ahead. The conference room door was open. Light spilled out, not from overheads, but from a cluster of camping lanterns scattered on the floor. The moaning rose and fell like a tide, mixed with something else, slick, wet noises, and the sharp pop of something being forced out of place. I leaned in, and that's when I saw him. A man, maybe mid-30s, long dark hair clinging to his face, entirely naked, his skin glistening with a translucent film like egg whites smeared across every inch of him. He was on his hands and knees, his body convulsing, not the wild spasms of a seizure, but a deliberate, horrifying contortion. His limbs were bent in ways bones aren't meant to bend, elbows reversed, knees twisting sideways. I could see the shapes pressing against his skin, splintered, pushing, almost tearing through. Then came the sound that still wakes me up at night, a heavy, wet crack, and his left arm jerked into place, snapping forward with a scream that tore through the room. Another crack. His leg rotated, the bone grinding back where it belonged. With each violent correction, something leaked from him, that same clear slime dripping, pooling beneath him, steaming against the cold tile, and as each limb fixed itself, it shrank. Not just realigned, shortened, as though his body had been stretched too far, and now the bones were compressing back to some unnatural baseline. Pop, scream, shorten, pop, scream. It went on for almost a minute. Every snap, every tearful moan pressing against the walls of that dead building. When it finally stopped, He collapsed face first, breathing like a drowning man. Then, calmly, as if this was routine, he wiped himself off with a folded towel beside him. Dressed, jeans, shirt, boots, ordinary clothes for something anything but ordinary, and then he walked out, not the way I came in, but toward the emergency exit. No one had bothered to fix. I watched him vanish into the overgrown lot, then into the tree line beyond. When I finally stepped into that room, there was nothing left but damp streaks drying on the floor. The lanterns were gone. The towel, gone. If I hadn't seen it, I'd have said it never happened. The noises came back for a few nights that December. 4, maybe 5. I didn't go in again. I just logged it, building secure, and kept driving. By the new year, the building went quiet. It stayed that way until they renovated it into medical offices 3 years later. I told the new guards to stay away from Building C if it ever started again. Most of them laughed. Some of them didn't, and me? I still drive past those offices sometimes. Lights on, people inside. No one believes a place can remember the things it hides. But I do.